Hey everyone, this is Amos for Just Being Amos podcast with my co-host Trevor over here.
Hey.
I'm glad you said that, not the other word.
Hey-o.
Oh, come on, Trevor.
Well, I had to tell him what the other word was.
Oh God. Okay. So this episode we are going to talk about the anime for the spring season. Yes, spring season
2025.
2025. Because my friend over here, he's more of the anime guy than I am. You know, I always get recommendation from Trevor because Trevor is that guy.
I'm that guy.
You're that guy. So, like I said, 2025 for the spring season. They got a lot going on, man. It's a lot of new shows and some returning shows as well. Mm-hmm. You know, like Black Butler, like you love so much.
I love that one.
He does not.
No,
he does not.
No, but they do have like
How many seasons?
Apothecary Diaries.
Yes.
Is, returning again, which I love.
Windbreakers is another one that's returning.
I love Breaking Wind.
Windbreakers about the hooligans and delinquents. How about that? Not about breaking wind.
No.
It would be a cool concept, right? Breaking wind.
Breaking wind to fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bunch of people farting and flying off into the sky.
Yeah, some deadly farts, man.
Yeah, it's like turn around, fart, and just blast the guy across the room.
Yeah, and also, there are also spinoffs of My Hero Academia as well. Have a spinoff called Vigilantes. So we have some returning shows and spinoffs of shows that people love. So but I'm not watching those at all. I know you're watching.
I'm watching Apothecary Diaries, and the second season of Aharon is Indecipherable, which it's really cute and funny, but it's like a particular way. You have to kind of be into that style of humor, but if you are, it's like totally up your alley. It's
I never heard of that one. You never told me about that one.
I did. It's about like the little girl, or not little girl. They're in high school, but she's like really short with like silverish hair. And just like this little cute thing, but she kind of like gets very up close, but then she also like whispers really quietly, and that she's just kind of like she's just a little odd. And then of course there's the big tall guy who sits next to her, and they form a relationship, but he like takes his imagination to extremes. It's like, oh, she must be doing this because of this, and then they go to this, and then it's like, what are you doing, dude? That makes no logical sense.
You never told me about that one.
I mentioned it to you, but you kept blanking it out, and you were like,
whatever, right?
Whatever.
Not my cup of tea, I guess. I'll probably take a look at it.
Take a look at it, but I don't know if it's really up your humor, because it's like slice of life quirky humor.
I have a hard time with that. You know that.
And so that's why I say it's very specific. If that is your humor type, you will love it. If not, you probably will not.
Oh, totally forgot one, man. Konosuba OVA.
Right, but that's kind of an OVA, so it doesn't really count as like...
Yeah, but damn, it's so good to see Konosuba. God's blessing.
Those 2 episodes were really funny.
Yeah, it really was, man. We should have a podcast for that one, dude. Just talk about that series in general.
Yeah, that series in general.
In general, right? So I think you probably were more excited than I was for this spring 2025 series. TV shows, because like I said, there's some returning. There was some new ones and some that was a hit and miss. Because I know with you, if that first or second episode don't get you, you drop it.
Yeah, if I even started.
If you start to begin with, right.
Yeah, a lot of times my smellometer is pretty good, where it's like, this is going to be basic, tropey isekai.
Your smellometer?
My smellometer,
yep. You really?
Yep.
Wow. that reminds me of Riddick. No.
It doesn't pass the sniff test right away.
Yeah, that's what happened in Riddick, man. The Chronicles of Riddick. And this guy said, something smell right. And the guy says, nose never lies. I'm like, they're like, what the hell, dude?
Exactly. That's my nose never lies. So there's a lot of them where I'm just like, I'm not even going to give that one the time of day, because it probably won't be great.
So once you find out, what criteria do you like to judge the anime? Because you are very particular about your anime.
I am.
Because you're not like me. I'll watch something and I'll say something. You say, are you really watching that anime? I'm like, yeah.
I don't quite give you that attitude.
No, he's lying. But
Maybe I do.
no, you don't. I'm just
I judge
playing.
you harshly for it.
Yeah, right.
I mean, we're still friends, but
but
just barely.
but yeah. So I know you got a nice criteria. For me,
Right.
not so much.
So for me, if it's an isekai, I probably will pass.
Tread lightly though.
Right. But there are some isekais that have interesting ideas, and so sometimes I'll give it a chance, but if it has like a great idea but poor execution, I'll probably drop it after a while. But I will give one a chance generally if it sounds like it does something different.
Right.
So like Konosuba is a great example because Konosuba is a parody. It's satire. It's complete bonkers madness making fun of the genre while also embracing it. But yeah, most of them are just like, guy dies, is either reborn or is immediately just placed in that world, and he has like superpowers, and all the girls love him.
That's the typical trope.
Right, and you just get the same beats in every single one. It's the same thing.
And I'm like you now, because when the isekai first started, I was like, oh, this is cool and everything, but then all of a sudden it got generic. And, you have certain isekai that I like, but it's also dark fantasy. I like the dark fantasy stuff.
Right, and that's sometimes that's the
difference.
key, is that if it's like pure fantasy, it can be good, and I will usually give it a try.
Right.
Like I did last season with Ubel Blot.
Yeah,
man, that turned into a train wreck. That was.
I didn't finish it, dude.
You're not missing anything.
It was 2 episodes left.
It was one of those ones that I was always curious about reading the manga, but I was like, oh, there's an anime coming out. Let me check it out, see if I like it. And it was. First, it cut off like the first entire book. So there was like plot points and characters that they just never introduced. And then it decided after that to be very faithful to the manga, other than like, all of the, weird sexualized stuff.
Oh, God.
But it was like very faithful to the point where it's like, we're not even going to like fudge the thing to introduce you to these characters that were in this first thing that we cut off. Or anything. So you're like, what is going on? Who is this character? Whatever. I knew because eventually I did read the manga up to a certain point.
Yeah, you told me.
And then I started watching it. But then also, the anime, it made no sense. The animation was
they
terrible.
did the women dirty in that movie,
right, and
that series.
Right, so it was just terrible. And now I don't want to read the manga anymore. So it kind of did the opposite of its job in getting me uninterested.
I didn't finish it.
So, but if it's like, some sort of fantasy or things like that, where it's not like a person reborn, it's literally like something taking place in a fantasy world.
Like Goblin Slayer.
Right, exactly, something like that. And even that's got like a D&D thing to it.
Yes.
But it's, I like fantasy. I usually give that a try, but most of the time not isekai. I obviously am not really into idols or dancing shows or anything like that.
Except for one.
Every now and then there's a good one.
Your boy Khan, the guy from. I forgot his name. What is it?
Your boy Kong Min.
Yes, right.
Ching, ching, right, and that one I had actually passed on.
I like that song, dude.
It is. It's very catchy.
Catchy song.
I'd actually passed on that one, but then when I heard how good it was, I was like, let me check this out.
I was not going to watch it.
It's funny.
And I watched the entire series, man. I said, what are you talking about? Then I started watching and okay. The only problem I had with that series was that the rapping part of it, because it can't translate Japanese language into rapping.
Right, which they still did a pretty good job of doing. But it was kind of like we didn't need the rap part. We could have, let's just do her songwriting.
It was funny. Stuff. I'm watching dub. I did watch subtitle too, but when I watched the dub, they was doing rapping. They kept the Japanese part of it.
I know. It is funny when you get shows that have like singing or whatever in it, and it's like, they dub it, but then all of a sudden they're like, but we can't change the song, so the song is still sung in Japanese.
The only time I seen they did it correctly, and I know you don't watch this, I was watching a couple episodes, was Naruto. The third season when he became a teenager, Shippuden, I think it was. You had a guy called Killer B. He always rapping, doing this and everything. And actually in the dub, they were actually rapping. So so the subtitle, you look at it like, okay, they made it work. It could happen, but they didn't care whatsoever for that at all. But anyway, so let's get on this talking about this season here, the spring, and we came up with some, not in order or top 5 or 3. We just naming shows that we were watching that we kind of like. that we do like.
Some of the ones that seem to stand out this season.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think you and I are going to do, I'm going to do this one. We're going to kind of agree on this one. It's To Be Hero X.
Okay, yeah, we'll start with this
one. Because when I was seeing the trailer for that in the animation, I'm like, damn, this is nice. But then I didn't know that the typical anime that they were using are more of flashbacks for the characters of the TV show. Right. So you got the animation is similar to Arcane. If y'all are familiar with Arcane.
Right. So it's got this very CGI kind of look to the majority of
the show.
Yeah. But, kind of like CG more like, like Arcane or like the new Trigun.
Oh, the Trigun Stampede.
Trigun Stampede.
Yeah.
Which it blends a little bit better than like the stiff, jointy
and I would
CGI.
Say it transitioned. This is fluid.
Right.
It really is.
And then every now and then, they'll show something like a flashback or something like that, and that's when they get into more of an anime style, traditional anime style animation. So it's very neat, and even the animation is fluid, and it looks really cool.
They really took their time with this show, man.
So it's really well done on
And I think it's gonna be 24 episodes, dude.
I think it is. It's like 2 seasons.
Jeez.
But yeah, so it's basically this idea that anybody can be a hero, but you have to build up like a trust level with the populace basically. Yeah. So, if people trust you and they think you're a hero and they there's something that you've done that they're like, this is something I can get behind, that becomes your power. Which it's a double-edged sword though. So for example, our main character, well, it kind of starts out dark, but our main character, our main character, his name is Linling, and he's not a hero. He actually does all the marketing and like makes the advertisements
for the heroes,
for the corporation that kind of
sponsors the heroes.
So if you've seen The Boys, it's kind of a similar idea.
Yeah.
Corporate sponsorship type thing, and a public relations to try and massage your how people see you, but basically his favorite hero is this guy named Nice, who's got like white hair, just kind of pretty boy look, white cape and white suit type thing, and he's basically the perfect hero, and that's what they think, what the audience thinks of him as the perfect hero.
Yeah.
But as a result of that, he always is feeling like OCD and anxiety and things like that because he always has to be perfect. So it gets worse and worse with the OCD because the audience's expectations of him are driving him to be that way. So what ends up happening is that at the very beginning, for some odd reason we don't know at first, Nice jumps off a building and kills himself, commits suicide right in front of Linling.
Yeah.
And then Linling kind of resembles him, so they're like, well, let's just pretend you're nice. And then in the process of them pretending he's nice, because the audience still thinks it's nice, he starts to look like Nice. His hair turns white. He starts to look more like him. His eyes change.
So
but then he also starts getting the OCD and the perfection and the so he attains the same power. But of course, it's a double-edged sword, as we see, because when we meet in episode 3, whatever the stand-up guy was. So there's, So there's this big guy who.
What was his name?
I can't remember his name either. But
Firm.
Right, Firm. Yes.
He was Firm.
So yeah, perfect example. Firm. That's So he was in I think mining or the construction or something like that.
He was a firefighter.
Firefighter, yeah. And this girl was about to get crushed by a wall or something like that. And he stood and held it up so that she could get out. I think it crushed him, and then he managed to push it up and let her out, and then held it. So that became like the view of him. Right. That's how the world saw him, as this guy who stood firm and held up the...
Poor guy.
Right. So as a result... The guy could, as it went on, the guy could never crouch. He couldn't lean down. He couldn't bend over, which meant he couldn't poop. He couldn't sleep in like a horizontal bed. He had to sleep vertical and strap himself to the bed, because this expectation of him has caused him to stay this way all the time.
Yeah, that was just cringy, man. It couldn't do anything.
Right. And then there is Moon, who's Nice's girlfriend, but we find out that's kind of a fake relationship.
Yeah, because they made that up.
Right.
For the audience, for the populace.
But the audience wants them to be together.
Yeah.
So as a result, her power technically is teleportation, but as time went on, she has this teleportation gun.
Right.
But as time went on, every time she teleports right next to Nice. That's the only place she can teleport to because the audience wants them together.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's kind of this double-edged sword. So they have the power, but they also have the cons of always having to be that thing that the audience sees them as.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so it's a really cool concept.
And the thing is about it, man, is the villains. Like, they got their power differently.
They get it through fear. Fear is the other side of it, yes.
Right. Because some organization actually making these guys villains. You remember how the guy, he's trying to oust Nice, he wasn't the original Nice, he was someone else. He's trying to oust him the first time.
Right.
So when that didn't work, they approached him, what organization it was, and gave him different powers. He went after him again. And that's when you get the opportunity to see Ling Lin. I'm saying that right? Lin Lin. Golly. Lin Lin. You see him confronting the guy, and he was telling them the truth, the populace, the truth that I'm not Nice. I'm just Ling Ling. Because they actually killed him off. Remember, they killed him. Ling Ling, he's supposed to be dead.
Right. So, yeah, they swapped it and said Lin Ling was the one who jumped off the building and committed suicide.
Not Nice. So he confronted this guy, and he was just telling the truth, and back and forth and back and forth. People said, who is this guy?
Well, yeah, so he admitted to that it was all fake.
Fraud,
so he lost all of his trust.
Right.
So he no longer had any powers. So he reverted back to Lin Ling. He looked like he originally did.
And that was a badass episode, man. I'm sorry, because that episode was top right now, it's a peak right now. And when he finally told the truth, and he went up against this guy, just so he's a normal person. Right. They said, who is this guy? He's just a normal person.
But the thing is that supposedly this guy had kidnapped Moon, who Lin Ling really is in love with. Like, he knows everything about her. And in episode 2, he actually helped her escape and get her freedom. And then suddenly she comes back kidnapped, and he's like, oh no, and the whole world thinks she's dead because that's what they did. They faked her death.
Right.
So that's why, everybody's questioning. I thought they said she was dead. But then he admits it. But he basically is persevering to save her because that's, he cares about her so much.
Right. That's the drive.
He keeps trying to fight and keeps getting punched or hit or whatever and beaten up to a bloody pulp. But then eventually he wins over the audience, not as Nice, but as Lin Ling. So he becomes the commoner.
Yeah, because what it's saying is anyone can be a hero.
Right.
That's what the whole thing was, because he was standing up for something. He was fighting for the person that he likes, or love, I guess.
Right.
Love, and he was just like, the guy said, what is going on? And it's funny, all the corporations that back these heroes were looking at this guy. So who is this guy?
Right.
He said, I like him. I want to get him. I do it. One of the guys who run the corporation, I go see him for myself.
Right.
So instead of him being a Lin Ling, yeah, I got it right. He's called the Commoner, which is kind of the appropriate title for the guy because he was just an average guy.
Right. So that's the basic concept behind this, and there are certain aspects to it that sometimes worry me. A little bit like potential fridging or damsel in distress.
Yeah.
Like, we've already seen Moon supposedly be dead twice.
Yeah.
And then also get, captured and, the damsel in distress that Lin Ling has to save. So I'm a little bit nervous about that if they keep pushing that.
Well.
And of course they had to play this thing where it's like you had a cliffhanger ending in episode 4,
right? And
then 5 is like, let's show you something totally different. So
because he killed her the second time. Esau is supposed to be Esau.
Yeah.
So we get Esau episode. The following episode, we're like, okay, now we got to tell his story.
But so we probably have to bear this one for a little while before we can get back to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so far right now, I really like it. The animation goes a long way towards it. The concept goes a long way towards, making it something great.
Yeah.
And hopefully they can just,
I'm really enjoying this show right here because, like you said, the way the production of it all is outstanding. You know, you got the typical anime traditional animation, along with this CGI animation that they got going on. Remind me of Arcane, the Netflix series, right? So I think it's pretty awesome, man. I really like it.
Yeah.
So that's To Be Hero X is one of my favorites this so far. And I'm gonna say another one. I'm gonna butcher this damn title. The Unaware Atelier? Atelier, yeah, okay. Yeah. I like that one. I would pick the one I can't pronounce, right?
Of course.
Damn, dude, it's difficult.
Well, it's kind of like those Atelier, like Ryza or whatever, like games, you know, where
that's right.
Yeah, with the thick thighs.
Ooh, but not in this. They don't have it. They don't have it.
No. This is completely different. It's the same word, is what I'm pointing out.
Yeah.
So, and I just wanted to talk about thick thighs.
You like that damn character with the thigh thing fetish.
No, I'm not.
I'm just kidding.
But no, it's like an internet sensation, like her thick with 2 C's thighs.
I'm not going to talk much about this because I was telling you about it because the character reminded me of an old anime that you and I watched. He was a country, I can't think of the title. You know what title I'm talking about.
Oh, the kid from the boonies.
Yes, they remind me of that character. He's overpowering, but everybody that he meet and he say, "Oh, this is what we do in my village," and people looking at you, dude, like you are strong as hell.
Right.
Because everybody,
it's one of those things where the main character is oblivious to their own strength because they think, you know,
that's normal.
This is just normal for me. So the example of the kid from the boonies is basically he comes from a town that's right next to the final dungeon. So you know how like when you play RPGs, as you advance in the game, the enemies get harder and harder. You know, the same thing. It's like, well, he's from that town that's right outside of the hardest level, so all the creatures are hard.
Right.
And technically, he's one of the weakest people in his village.
And that's the crazy part about that.
But compared to everybody in the starting town, he's like way overpowered. So, so that's the same thing here. This kid is just oblivious to the fact that he's powerful.
And that's about this whole entire situation is for this anime as well. Although he's powerful, but he's oblivious. And, you know, he makes these crystals that people they look at and say, where did this come from? This is one powerful magical crystal. And he's making things. He cured somebody of a curse out of porridge. People ate some porridge and the curse was gone. I mean, it's just one of those things, man. I find it very funny, to be honest with you. And it's just one of those I just watch, man. It's nothing very spectacular about it. It's just something I just like to watch. You know, I like the oblivious hero.
That's fine if it's just something you enjoy.
Yeah, I like the oblivious hero, man. And he's so wholesome. You know, and you know what though? He is very truthful though. That's the thing. When he saw this beautiful woman, he said, "You're pretty." He just said, "You're pretty." I'm like, and she all blushing and everything. Like, oh, and he's just truthful. You know, but everybody look at him and say, "Well, what are you talking about, man?" You know, just he's oblivious. So I'm enjoying watching it, man. I need something that's lighthearted. You know, after killing monsters and heroes getting beat to a pulp, you know, and stuff like that. I need some kind of some lighthearted stuff. Yeah, some lighthearted stuff. That's my take on that one.
Gotcha.
So what about you?
So I'm gonna now then go into like this one's not the lighthearted one. If you want to get more into it. One of the ones that I really like, it's called Kowloon Generic Romance.
I'm behind in that one.
Okay. So basically, there was the walled city of Kowloon in...
it's an Asian country.
China,
I think so, yeah.
But it got torn down like over 30 years ago, or maybe even longer. I haven't done a lot of the history. But it was basically, if you kind of think of it, similar to like shanty towns, but it's like all these apartments like stuck together in back alleys, and it's walled in.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like this old nostalgic type, you know, Asian city. And that's what it plays on. It plays on this nostalgia, but it basically, this show imagines what if Kowloon did not get knocked down? What if it wasn't, you know, razed to the ground?
Right.
And so you do have these people who are living there who, you know, it feels nostalgic for them. It feels like home to them, even though sometimes it feels a little anachronistic. But But so basically, it follows two real estate agents in this walled city, Reiko Kujirai and
Let me interject something real
girl.
quick, man. How far are you into this?
5 episodes.
5?
Yeah.
I'm only in 2.
Okay.
So you gonna spoil a lot for me?
No,
man?
I'm not gonna. I'm just basically gonna give you the idea.
Okay, don't, because
not,
man, our friendship is done.
I'm not gonna dig into it too much. I'm just giving you the basics.
Okay, give my audience the basics.
So
man.
Reiko Kujirai is a female real estate agent at this real estate agency, and then her coworker Hajime Kudo. He also works there. So basically, she's in love with him, and he kind of comes across as kind of this aloof, sort of charming, sometimes rascally, like older senpai, as you would call him, but then we start to find out that he was engaged to Kujirai, but she doesn't remember any of that. But then it turns out she's not Kujirai. She's a different person. So now you're like, and meanwhile, the whole time there's like this kind of prismatic double pyramid or whatever in the sky.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Right. And so there's something at work here. And that's the thing. It's a mystery. It's like, why are there two of her, but the other one's now gone? You know, and why is it? Why do things seem to change from time to time? Why are there multiple people of the same type? Why are what is going on? There's this weird mysticism, this weird mystery. Who is Kudo exactly? What is his deal? So yeah, it's learning little things at a time, and it just keeps making you question more and more.
So it's a mystery, huh?
Right. So it's kind of like this mystery / romance. So yeah, it's very interesting.
All right, I got to keep watching it.
I'm enjoying it.
Okay, I know you. I'm gonna go back to me now, but I see what you got right here. I'm watching it as well. But another one is called the Devil May Cry, which is based off a Capcom video game. Years ago they did one. They did a series years ago.
Yeah, they did.
So this in 2025 they brought it back on Netflix. And it's the bad part. I got the video games on my PS5, man.
Honestly, I've never played the video games. I've never watched the original anime, and I didn't watch this one, so I kind of don't know a whole lot about this.
I don't either.
Other than it's like really hard, and like Dante does all those cool moves.
I'm all about that, man. But I played the first game. It was hard. I'm like, damn, it's hard. But I said, you know what? Let me give it a try. And plus, the fact the soundtrack is pretty nice too. Evanescence put out a new song, Afterlife.
But
Afterlife.
It's got a great style, which is why the games were always so popular and did well. I can see why.
Yeah, so like I said, I don't know much about the lore through the video game. Like I said, I tried to play the first game. It was like Trevor says, hard, but I like what I saw. I like the action, and the story was pretty good. They even put in a character, Enzo from Bayonetta.
Oh, okay.
Because what they did was, that's a Capcom property. So they put him in there.
They kind of have a connection.
So, and Capcom did a lot of Easter eggs in this thing, dude. You had a little Mega Man figure on a dashboard. You see Street Fighter playing in Dante's office. That right there. And Dante made a reference in Raccoon City. I'm like, okay, I see what y'all doing. Which they can do it anyway because it's their property.
Well, it's their property.
So I thought it was pretty cool. He said, he's on Enzo. He said, it's the second time I've done. I'm not doing. He said, remember Raccoon City? He said, yeah. So they did that as well. I thought that was pretty cool. That they're part of not even part of the universe, just a property. That we all played as kids, like Street Fighter 2, Mega Man. By the way, Mega Man was hard too.
Well, the original ones were pretty hard.
Yeah.
No thanks to those controllers, too. Those tank controllers did not help.
None whatsoever, man. So, all in all, man, I really enjoyed it. It had there was one episode that was heartbreaking, man, to be honest with you, dude. And because the animation style was different as well in that episode. It had two stories dealing with Mary, which he calls Lady. She had two different eyes and the eye color thing.
Heterochromia.
Yeah, and you had the bunny, the white rabbit, he had his story, and it was heartbreaking, man. I like, damn, this is kind of jacked up. But that's what I'm saying. And all the other episode was action, this and that, and then this one episode was heartbreaking. Then it went back to the action. I was like, okay, I see you switched up some, which is great for storytelling.
Oh yeah.
So, but like I said, I really enjoy it. It's going to be a season 2. Which is funny because when Evanescence video showed, they showed the video of her band and everything, and it was this something was on a projector, like it's on a wall, project pictures. What happened was they had clips from season 2.
Oh, did they?
I'm like, damn, dude, season 1 is over with. So anyway, but like I said, I enjoyed it. It was fun to watch. It's nothing to scratch your head on. That's what it is. So. Devil May Cry, I liked. I can't wait for season 2.
Cool.
And I know you got one right. I'm watching this as well,
All
too.
right, so yeah, another one that I like that I wasn't expecting this one to be like top of my list, but
it's funny.
It's really funny. It's called Witch Watch. Try saying that like 10 times real quick.
That's what they try to do.
Witch Watch, Witch Watch,
Which way?
But this one's basically about a witch who she was childhood friends with basically an ogre. So like he's from a family of ogres, and of course they look more normal like humans, but
except for one feature, the hair. Yeah, have you noticed?
Yeah, all the hairs have like they have the
represent like the horns and the horns. Yeah.
So they're like childhood friends, although she seems to be kind of like always getting into trouble, and he has to like save her bacon basically. So he kind of finds her to be a nuisance.
Yeah.
But then after either like some tragedy with the house or something, she and her mom move away because she goes to like the witch village or something to train.
Yeah.
And so she's gone for a while, but now she's coming back in high school to come live with him. The dad, of course, is mysteriously going to move out and leave his son there because his son is...
Why do they always do that in Japanese anime? They always do that.
Well, just get the parents out of the way.
Well,
make it more fun.
That's true.
I know.
Damn.
It's like if Japan were really like that, it's like, man.
Can America do that?
Yeah, just leaving kids by themselves all the time.
Trouble.
Yikes. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
So she comes to live with him, and he's basically her familiar, but more just like her bodyguard protector. And so, of course, her thing is she needs to like learn more about being a witch. So she wants to practice and do, more things, but she wants to help people with her powers. And he kind of thinks it's probably a bad idea to like make a big deal of her powers and everything and draw attention to herself. Especially because within the year, there's like a premonition or whatever that she is going to be in danger. I don't know if it specifically says she's going to die or something.
That's the other witch show.
But what's that?
That's the other witch show. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about that one. Talk about that one, dude.
But so basically, he's being her bodyguard and trying to look out for these signs, that may put her in danger. But at the same time, she keeps doing all of these like, spells that there's always a con to them, Like, so it's like, I want to have like a different fashion sense. So she looks at like these magazines and she's like, well, rather than buying it, I can just do a spell and make myself these, clothes out of magic.
And there are repercussions out of that.
But the problem is that it only takes the picture that you see. So she's got a nice thing on the front, but the back is just completely clear and shows off her underwear. So she's basically wandering around trying to get like, the dude's attention.
In other words, Trevor, she's a walking disaster.
She is a walking disaster, exactly. She means well, but completely. Or there's the one where all of her manga show up, like all of Golgo 13 and whatever.
I haven't gone that far.
Yeah, her mom's...
I haven't seen it yet.
So her mom sends it to her, and so she decides... Well, she had been ticking off the ogre, and he's like, why do I have to carry this for you? It's like not my job. Even though he's like super strong, it's not a problem. But he's like, why do I have to carry all this for you? So then she has to do it. So she's like, well, the best way to do this is I'm going to split myself into two. Only the problem is that every time she splits herself into two, she does half of herself. So now she's like half her size and has half the brain power.
She ain't bright anyway.
And so so then they're both carrying a box, and it's no different than one person carrying a box. They're just And then she decides, oh, well, this is taking forever. So now I'm going to split myself again into 4 people. So now, of course, they're 4 times as dumb.
Dude,
So it's like things like that she keeps
that
doing.
first episode got me though,
But
man.
yeah, it's really funny. I was pleasantly surprised by it. So yeah, I definitely recommend that one.
I recommend it too. It's fun, dude. And I think the last one we kind of we both watched was the Country Bumpkin.
Yeah, from Old Country Bumpkin to Master Swordsman.
Right. Yeah, and that's another fantasy. It's not an isekai. It's a fantasy.
So this one's straight up fantasy, which helps.
Yeah, which helps a lot. So you have this sword master that he's out in the country. He has a dojo, and he has many students over the years come to the dojo and becomes adventurers, knights. They'd be like prominent swordsmen,
right?
Or women.
Yeah, mostly women.
Women.
Let's face it, this is a harem show.
Yeah, right. So it's mostly women. He does have one male pupil that came back to the village to run the dojo.
Right. Eventually takes his place. So
because he gets high praise from his students.
Right. Basically he just thinks of himself as like a nobody, average, sword teacher. He teaches you the art of swordsmanship, but he doesn't think much of himself. He's just, this is what I do.
Right.
But of course, all of his students have excelled and they remember him and how much he taught them. And so, of course, even though they're like half his age, it's the whole, I love the old dude. Yeah. Which this guy generally does at least look like he's older.
Right.
It's like you can see the crags in his face. Yep. He's got a little bit of gray in his hair. Yeah. But not like too old that it feels like, well, this is creepy old, like Hugh Hefner and Playboy models.
Right. But the good thing about this though is that although his former students are all they love him, but when one of them just say all these random things about, well, he didn't go out with me and stuff like that. It could have been better if he wanted to date with me, not her. It's that kind of thing, man. He's oblivious. He doesn't care at all.
Well, he's completely oblivious because he thinks he's an old man and they would not be interested in someone like him.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they're a little bit catty with each other about who gets to spend more time with them.
Yeah.
But basically, one of his students, who is now like the captain of the guard or whatever, the royal guard in the city, she comes and asks him. Yeah, she had recommended him to come and teach the royal guard knights, then the trainees and everything in the city to be like the official sword master. So he's like, well, at first he doesn't want to do it, but his grandpa keeps.
No, his dad.
His dad keeps bugging him about having grandchildren.
Yeah, he kicked him out the house.
So he basically kicks him out and says, "Go do it."
Yeah, I want some grandkids.
Right. So he does take this job, and of course he keeps running into like old students of his, and then so he just thinks he's like this average guy. Doesn't think much about it. He's like, I just teach the swordsman. But then everybody starts to be like, oh, wow, this guy is really good. Uh-huh. He really knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about. And you start to understand why all of his students, revere him and want him to teach more people. And so I think eventually the idea is he's basically never been on an adventure. He's never actually fought a real enemy.
He tried to be an adventurer once when he was younger.
Right.
It didn't pan out like he thought it would.
Right. So, but now he's like in this position where sometimes he has to actually go out in the field and sometimes he has to, so he's starting to learn more about himself and, how good his techniques are and stuff. But it is kind of a refresher to have somebody he's powerful and he's talented.
He's humble. He's
very humble, but he's not like overpowered.
Right.
It's like he's good with a sword. He knows how to use it. He knows how to disarm people. He knows how to, how to teach people. And so it's kind of a breath of fresh air to see something like that without it being, oh, I'm overpowered. Of course, all the women like me, but I'm too scared because I'm just so young and I'm a virgin. And, it's not none of that. He's just kind of like, I'm just a guy living my life.
Yeah. And, like I said, is that he just... he never fought anyone who had magic. He went with someone with magic for the first time.
Right. So because now it's like he gets to put his skills to the test.
Right.
Fighting against a dragon, fighting against a magic user. Mm-hmm. When all he has is a sword.
And he's quick on his feet. He's always thinking how to defeat the person. Like you said, he see cracks in people.
Yeah. Look for weaknesses. Look for cracks. Look for openings. Yeah. So.
And so I really like this show, man. I hope it's a season 2 after this, but I think with him, he's got his second lease on life. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That
yeah, for sure.
As far he tried to be an adventurer, that didn't work. He was a sword master in his dojo. Like you said, he was revered by his students,
right?
His peers as well. So they really love him.
Right. So the basic idea is he's a man who's finally getting his due. He's finally getting his recognition for what he does.
Right. So I really enjoy this show. It's one of my favorites so far this year. It said from old country bumpkin to master swordsman. Cool. So that's what you got?
Yeah, I think that's about it. We've mentioned the ones that the ones that have been carrying over that we've already been watching. But yeah, those are probably my top picks for this season.
Yeah, those are my picks too. I have honorable mentions, but I'm not gonna mention them at all. I'm gonna leave that another time. So
we're lucky we don't have any that turned out to be absolute disaster dumpster fires like we did last time.
Oh God!
So we won't go on a rant.
Well, yeah, this season has been pretty manageable and very enjoyable.
It's like you know what you're getting with most of them.
Most of them, right? So, like I said, so guys, if you haven't checked out these shows, we recommend checking them out. Cause like I said, my guy right here, he's a guru. When I say guru,
I guess it kind of fits a little bit.
He's an expert, somewhat an expert. Because when I tell people about anime and manga, I say, yo, I get it from a friend, Trevor. He knows all this stuff. I get recommendations from this guy. And now we start a whole conversation. I'd be surprised at what I know. Hanging out with you, dude.
I know.
Really,
I'm a good teacher, finally getting my recognition.
Oh, all right, Sensei. Yeah. So, guys, that's it for Just Being Nameless podcast. Once again, with my friend Trevor. Thanks for coming, Trevor.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Don't you say it, man.
Fine, I will.
So, guys, if you enjoyed this podcast, go ahead and check it out, subscribe, and like and comment. Peace.